Hello, Jeremiah.
Hello, Lexi.
Let me fix my little thing. Okay. Well, I want to say thank you for doing part 2 with me. And then I think we forgot to do this last time, but I just want to remind you I'm a student, so this is not an official counseling session. And the only people that will see this video is, of course, me and then my supervisor. Is that cool with you?
Yes, I condone.
Okay. Okay, so we'll just kind of start where we left off last week, but before we discuss that, I do want to ask if, since we've talked in the last week, if anything's changed or if you have like any updates for me.
No, I don't think anything has changed since last time.
So you're still feeling you're having like a feeling of indecisiveness around choosing your major and potentially switching schools, things along those lines.
Yeah, mainly about my career. But I do want to reiterate, like, it's not necessarily like a make or break thing. Like, it doesn't affect my joy or my happiness either way. But I do want to, like, I just want to decide. Like, I just want to have a plan set out.
Yeah, so do you feel like, if anything, if it's affecting your joy or like your mental health in general, it's more the indecisiveness, not necessarily like the choice itself? It's
Yeah,
more
exactly.
feeling unsure about, like, just kind of wanting to have answers.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think last time we were talking about how during the holiday season, like, we always get asked like questions by our family and stuff, and uh, it sounds silly, but like having to say like this or that, it's just like a whole thing, and it really grinds my gears. So
Yes.
I'm not a huge fan of that, but I think at the same time, it's not necessarily like a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
To wonder. So it doesn't affect my day to day.
That makes sense. Yeah. I feel like it seems like you have a good sense of like hope around it. Like you sort of know no matter what you choose, you know it will be okay. So you kind of get to have a sense of peace around it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, like, I think at the end of the day, I love both of those things a whole lot.
Yeah.
And I am excited for whatever path like I get to go down, because I think both of those like avenues in my life, and also to like reiterate, would be like either education administration of a school or just be like in sports management.
Yeah.
And so I know that both of those things are passions of mine. I've wanted to do both of those things for a long time. But last time I said that I would like to maybe pursue the sports management a little more, because I feel like that's like what I've always wanted to do ever since I was a kid. And I would feel maybe a sense of regret, maybe, that if I never tried to go and do that. And so I think that is the best way I can answer it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Have you talked to any family since we last talked, in terms, I guess just in general, but even just like people asking like, what do you want to do? Like, has that come up at all since we last talked?
You know what? It's kind of funny. Nobody really has. Like, and since we've talked, like, I've had 4 different like Thanksgivings that I've been to, and nobody's really asked me about like what I was doing. And so it's kind of silly to look back on it that we were so like, or not we, but like I wasn't worried, but like I was just not looking forward to doing that, and I didn't end up doing it at all.
It didn't even happen.
Yeah, and so it just shows how oftentimes that we worry about stuff that doesn't actually happen. So, but no, talking to family, I haven't talked to any family about it. but I think that they're very aware of like those are still both on the table, um, and those are both things that they both think that I would have a great passion for it,
Hmm.
um, and that it would be a good career to pursue. And none of my family members uh, think that it would be like a lost cause for my career or that I should maybe think about doing something else. Like
Hmm.
they're all very supportive of that, and so I don't have any anxiety or worry about what they might have to say.
That makes sense. So, is there, from anybody in your family, is there any, even if they're not necessarily saying it, do you feel like there's a pressure to choose one or the other? I think we may have discussed this a little bit last week, but I'm curious if there's anybody that's even like, either way is great, but you might be better at this or this would be more fun. Like, even if it's not coming in a way that's upsetting to you, is there any sway in either direction from anybody in your life?
Um, I would say like there's a general like sense that I should pursue like the education role because that is just what like that's what my major is and that's just kind of what I've committed to as of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But like I also don't think that they feel like okay, yeah, you should only do this, like you shouldn't have to worry about or like you shouldn't try to pursue anything else. Like I don't feel that way at all, but like whenever we have conversations about the future, like it's always about like what my role will look like in that.
Mm-hmm.
However, I just remembered this, which was why I hesitated. But it's more funny than anything. But my papa, who was like a teacher for many years, and like he went to college and got a degree in education, and he said he had a good life for himself. But the other day, he called my dad just kind of like out of the blue, like in the middle of the day, like in the morning. And we're like, hey, Papa, what's going on? And he's like, nothing much. I just got off the bike and I just was thinking about Jeremiah's future and I was just wondering about it. And so is Jeremiah there so I can talk to him? I'm like, yeah, hey, Papa, I'm right here. And he's like, yeah, I just wanted to tell you that you might want to pursue a different degree from special education because for principals and superintendents they don't really like to hire people with special education degrees, which I
Mm-hmm.
immediately know is not true because my superintendent at my high school was was special education to start, and his like whenever he got into it, his superintendent had a special education background, and everybody I've talked to says that like that's the best path to go for it because
Yeah.
you get like behind the scenes stuff, whatever. And before I just didn't want to argue with him, and so we were just like whatever. We're like okay, that we'll look into it or whatever. But
Yeah.
I did want to note that because not so much like it hurt my feelings,
Yeah.
but it was kind of a funny experience.
Yeah. So, do you think that it's more like maybe that was true when he was starting his career, or where do you think it's coming from?
Uh, I think it might be dementia related.
Oh, okay.
Because he also said like um you should consider being physical education, which is PE, and that's not
Okay.
necessarily like I mean no disrespect to any PE majors, but like that I personally don't know any administrators that come from that background,
Yeah.
and so at that point when he said that I was like okay, I know what we're dealing with here,
I
but
see.
special education could have been different from when he was definitely it is probably looked at differently just because
Mm.
nowadays nobody um like everybody takes it a lot more serious and like they
Mm-hmm.
understand it a lot more and there's a lot more science behind it and research behind it and so and back then it was more like they kind of just put them in a separate room and like just try to do the best that they could with them with limited resources. But now it's a completely different deal.
Yeah, there's a reason you can major in it because there's so much to learn now.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that makes sense. I feel like it's definitely something that's evolving, and like that does any field that you choose that's sort of, I guess, more modern. Which, like, that's sort of how my major is too. Like, not everyone thinks therapy's like a legitimate healthcare source, but so I understand what you're saying. It's like not everyone's gonna understand that, especially from older generations, which could add to the layers of like maybe pressure from your family. Like when they ask questions, you're like, are they even gonna fully understand what this means? But it sounds like in general everyone's pretty supportive of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a blessing to have like my family like want that and like support that and not want me to like pursue what they pursue or what they like. And there is a level to that, like of just from not necessarily my career, but like different ways. Like my mom thinks I should live a certain way, different from how I live now, and my dad thinks I should live a different way. But I guess that's what like college is all about. Like it's all about finding your identity and who you are as a person, and because it's like your first step away from home.
Yeah,
and it's like a super fun time, but it's also important to find who you are. So I definitely, it could be very different. So I'm very glad that I have the family that I do.
Are you, like, when you say your mom has a vision for kind of what she would like for things to look like, and I think every parent is like that, every parent kind of has some type of picture in their mind of what their kid's life will turn out like. It's not a good or a bad thing. I think it's very natural. Is the vision that you think your mom has for you and the vision that your dad has for you, are they the same, or do they have like separate ideas of what they think you might turn out like in this next chapter?
As far as just like in general or my career?
Just in general.
Okay. I think that so I'm going to try to tie it the best way I know how. Like, whenever I was born, I have an older brother named Ellis, and we're like 3 or 4 years apart. And like whenever we were born, my mom always imagined that there would be like a taunts to taunts touchdown. And as we grew up, it became very apparent that like neither of us really liked football. So we didn't even play like football in high school. And so that just is one example of like we can try to predict all we want about what our kids will be, or like how they'll act or what they'll look like or anything really. But you can't really like put a restraint on what they can accomplish. And I think for my mom, like when she went to college, like she had the best experience possible. In her opinion. Like she grew up in a small town and was very uncultured, and was very popular at her high school, very well liked, like homecoming queen. And she grew up in a very like Southern Baptist religious family. And when she went to college, she recounts her first day of college at OU actually as like the best day of her life, because she was walking to class and she didn't know anybody, and she thought that was one of the greatest feelings ever. And she had never felt that before, because everywhere she went in her small town, she knew everybody and she knew stuff about them. And when she went to OU, it kind of like expanded her horizon. And she honestly, I think, felt a little bit of conviction, because she was so uncultured and like she didn't know things that were going around the world. And now that has influenced her so much, and the friends that she made back then, like her friend Allie and like a lot of friends, they like Robin, like they all kind of, I think, influenced her in a positive way, and kind of showed her like the other side of the world from where she grew up. And my mom also like was super involved in all different types of like organizations, and she liked it so much that she never left, and so she still works there. And she doesn't enjoy it as much anymore because she doesn't get to work with like college kids anymore, but like her college experience was like something that she would never change it for the world or anything. And so what she kind of envisioned for me was like, okay, like go to college and like get involved as much as you can in all different types of things, meet all different types of people. And from that aspect, like I kind of agree, but I'm just not, frankly, I'm not as wild as my mom is or was, like, because she'll tell me stuff and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's too crazy. And I think it's also a fragment of a different time. Like they just grew up in a crazy time. But yeah, so I think that she wishes that I would be a little more like wild, I guess, or like try to get the college experience like everybody says. But that's just not something that who I am as a person. I just don't want to do all that stuff. So I'm good on that. And my dad, he had a very good college experience too. Like he was in a frat, and like, which was, I think frats are a lot different now than they were then. But he was the president of it, and like he really enjoyed it, made like lifelong friends who he still hangs out with to this day, and like who I know too, and he only knows them from his fraternity. So I think there was always pressure to like join that as a kid, because my dad did it and like all the things, and so that was definitely some pressure. But like at the end of the day, I've just continued to like do what I feel called to do, and that's been like an answer to everything. And I've never tried to do something that I feel like I'm doing for someone else, because I will always resent that at the end of the day. But yeah, no, to answer your question, I think that they both understand my path as a person, but I think it's kind of a weird dynamic because I'm influencing them every day, and kind of changing their horizon, because for so long you can have this path set out for your kids, but when your kids flip the path over onto you, then it's like it kind of changes their perspective and dynamic. So but I think they don't hold any pressure or anything towards me in that.
Yeah. Wait, so will you elaborate more on when you said like when you flip the path on them? What do you mean?
I think like whenever I went to college, like I kind of went a path that they didn't really expect, at least not my whole life. Like they didn't really ever expect me to go down, like to go to UCO and to like be involved in the things that I'm involved in. And I think that they have some admiration to me, but they also have like some question, or they wonder why like some things are the way that they are. And so I would say like flipping the path is like, instead of them questioning me, like sometimes I like to question them about, okay, so you had your path in college, like especially with my mom, I try to ask her this a lot, like, okay, like what's your path now? Because I don't want you to peak in college. Like I want you to peak like every day for the rest of your life. And so I think that is a mindset that she's kind of, I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, I did that, or I made her think about this, or like, because that's not my goal. My goal is just to love her in all the ways that I can. But I also want her to not look at the past as something that like, oh well, that was a good time and I'll never get that back. But I want her to look at the rest of her life to make the most out of what she can get.
That
And
makes
so
sense, yeah. And I
yeah.
think it's like you're saying your goal is to like just be a loving son, and that's good, but also, I mean, sometimes love is like challenging someone to help them see a different perspective that might make them happier. To me, that's a very pure form of love too, you know. Love doesn't
Mhm.
always have to feel easy, but I think that's cool that you guys have a relationship where you can kind of be like, you know, kind of bring up things that maybe she hadn't seen before, especially when you're mentioning that I know our parents are similar ages. Like they did go to college during a very different time period than
Yeah.
what it's like to be in school right now. Um, but I'm curious because it sounds like they both had such good college experiences, like almost like a movie, like picture perfect. Like it's almost like what people picture when they think of college is the
Hmm.
experience your parents had. It sounds like, and I know they both went to like the bigger universities as well. That kind of I feel like the bigger universities kind of perpetuate that like college scene that everyone envisions when you
Hmm.
think of like the college experience. And I know that is a different path you're taking. Even just going to UCO in your family, it sounds like is a little bit different from
Hmm.
what the other people in your family have done. Um, do you feel like knowing that their college experience was so positive puts any like even if it's like background pressure, it doesn't have to be like causing anxiety, but maybe a little bit of, do you ever question like, am I having enough fun, or am I making the most of this, or where do you stand with that?
That's a really good question. Yes, like I think there'll always be that level of like, am I getting the most out of this? And I think not only college, but just in life, like
Mm,
there'll always probably be that question of like, am I making the most of what I can do right today?
mm-hmm,
Like, did I make the most out of today? And I would say there's always like a question, especially comparing like OSU and OU respectively, where my mom and dad went to school, like in UCO, like it's still a lot different today. And it's UCO is a bigger deal now than it was then, but
mm-hmm,
it's still like such a smaller like size, and so with that comes a lot of different things. And so I do hold like a little bit of like I wonder what would be different if I did make this decision,
mm-hmm,
or should I still make this decision? And like to answer that, like I knew coming in that this is where I wanted to be, and like this is where I knew that like God wanted my path to go.
mm-hmm.
And um and so ever since then, like it's just been like an answer. Like I have friends that I know I'll have forever, and uh, like I work with two people, and I wouldn't have been able to work at this job um, had I not gone here, and I wouldn't even know about it. And that's another special case. Like it's a crazy coincidence the way that whole thing happened. And so
Yeah,
I think that just as you go down the path, and you could always make that case, but you can also be grateful for where you are.
for sure.
And like, I wouldn't change my decision at all.
Yeah,
But there is a level of like, I wonder if I am missing out. Like, there's a level of
mm,
like FOMO, I guess you could say.
yeah. And you could say like, it, let's say you went to OU and had like the stereotypical college experience, you could also flip it on the other end and wonder, you know, would I have liked a smaller school better where I could have had more personal experiences, or smaller class sizes, or more opportunities to get involved because it's not so competitive? Or, I mean,
Hmm.
you could always kind of wonder either way.
Hmm.
But it's nice that you seem to have like confidence in your decision, even though you're smart enough to know, you know, you there's always like other options technically, but you can still feel like convicted in the choice that you made, and like see how kind of paving your own path has paid off already. And you're not even done with school yet, and you're already able to see how important this time period has been, which I think is really cool. So in terms of, because I know you said if you do decide to change your major, you'd have to change schools. Would those schools be the bigger schools? Like, would it be OU, or what would that look like?
Yeah, so it's good. That's a good question. So right now, like I'm majoring in special education at UCO. If I would do want to switch majors, UCO does not offer like a sports management degree or anything like that. So I would likely have to like switch schools, which isn't inherently like a bad thing. Like I would still have the friends I have today, but it would change my life in a drastic way, because it would be harder to work at the job that I really enjoy working at, and it would be hard getting to see my friends that I'm still fostering that relationship and all those relationships.
Yeah.
And it's also like not quite a big enough deal, maybe, because even though if I stay where I'm at and I get a degree in education, I can still go get my master's, which have always planned on getting, whether it's in education administration or sports management. As long as my GPA is like above what is required, like I don't think I'll have any problem getting into those like graduate programs.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily like a big enough deal, I don't think, to like switch like my whole life up.
That makes sense.
But there is like a level of, okay, well, it would be like, it'd be hard to be all in here, because then I know like what I do want to do, and like learning about this stuff, while I still find it super interesting, like it's not gonna make me better at my future career that I do want, and like I wouldn't find it as interesting. And so there would always be like a level of like, okay, well, am I in the right place? Am I learning the right thing? So that's something I'm really trying to balance too.
That makes sense. So are you feeling a bit more decided on, you are wanting to do sports management, you're just not exactly sure what the path is that makes the most sense to get there? Or are you still feeling indecisive about the career choice in general?
Yeah, no, I would say I'm more decided on it, like, but it's just kind of strange because I flip-flop so many times between the two. Like that's why getting a degree in this would not be that bad, because in 2 years I could still have leeway either way.
Yeah.
Whereas if I left school and I went to go major in sports management, then I would not be able to I could probably get still in a graduate program of education administration, but it would just look a little different. And but no, I would say like over the past, since we've been talking about it, it's really like opened the floodgates to like, okay, like let's start thinking about it and like diving into what it would look like. And so I would say I would be like 80% decided on that, and 20% decided on the other, and I could always like fall back on it.
Yeah, I think that it sounds like if you got to stay and finish the major that you're doing right now, that almost like could provide more like emotional security, knowing that you'll always have that degree. And then you almost like, you're still making a decision, of course, because I think deciding to stay is a choice too. But if you have two different degrees and the two things that you are passionate about, that does kind of provide you with like flexibility, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. And so actually, since like this past week, I like kind of was just curious to how if I did leave, like what my credits would like transfer and like what that would look like.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't even end up like going into it because I was just like, it's not worth. I don't want to deal with all of it. Like go through and see what will transfer, because it will probably just be like it'll set me back, and I'll have to leave everything. So I'm just gonna ride it out, and like you said, like if I do somehow change my mind eventually, then I can always just go get my master's in education administration. So it's kind of funny because it's just whenever I did go to college, it was between those two options. Like I was like, okay, I know it's between, like I want to do one of these two, and then there was like a little bit like maybe I could join the FBI, and then maybe well, now my job is saying that they want to keep me like full time, and they want to offer me like a director position, but that would
cool.
I'd have to do it in like January, and so I want to do it. But there's just been a lot more openings, like paths I could do. But at the end of the day, I always want to do one of those two things, and I think that would be the most rewarding to me. And so I don't think it's like I'm not super stressed about it, but
I feel like you have a good plan and a good support system regardless of what happens, and like flexibility, and I think I may have said this last week, but being able to have two passions or two things that you would be good at is I mean, it's not to say that it isn't a bit stressful to have to make a choice, but it's pretty cool to be able to have options a lot of people don't know at all. So for you to have to like to have that much clarity about who you are and what you want to do this young is pretty cool. So I did want to say too, just hearing you talk about like, it just sounds like you've done a good job of building community at UCO and like routines and patterns, and you really like your job and you've made these friends that you've kept. And to me, like, of course that would be hard to say goodbye to before it's over. Like, it makes sense that you want to kind of stick that through and get the full college experience. But especially like hearing about your parents' college experience, it makes even more sense to me that it's like that it almost sounds like the experience is just as important as the degree, which I think is like great. I think both of those things are equally valuable, you know? So that's
definitely
pretty cool. Because I know your mom is using her major for her job, but I think a lot of people don't. Like, I don't think a lot of times the degree is necessarily what gets a person to where they are, at least in terms of personal development. Like, for me, I'm not going to use my undergrad major. I mean, the things I learned from it are useful sometimes, but in terms of directly correlating it to my career, it's not really happening. But I still, you know, like every experience you have leads you to what you're meant to do, you know?
Yeah, and whenever I was deciding, I was really like, okay, I'm not going to go to a place for a degree, because I knew that it could probably switch at any time. And like, one of my good friends, you might know Cammie, she, apparently like she had switched like a bunch of times. And so, there was like this level of, okay, well, like I could probably like just go where I want to go, and then everything else will like fall into place. And if I want to switch, I can just switch, and if I want to transfer, I can always transfer too. And so that's definitely just super cool to be able to be where I'm at and make the friends I have, and like my job, obviously I enjoy, and while it can be busy sometimes, it's super cool. So and college is it's kind of silly sometimes because we like stress so much about what our undergrad degree is, but you really could get whatever you want, and then later on you could become something completely different. Like you said,
Yeah.
people all the time don't use their degrees that they got their major in. So
Yeah, I think I have, I'm trying to remember exactly what it is, but there's a family friend of mine who worked in like fundraising or something like that at OU, and her major was zoology. Like, like
that is
sometimes
funny.
it's just like you're really there for the experience and the community building and like the people you meet and the things you learn about yourself sometimes are what actually leads you to your career, which is, it's kind of, in a way, I think there's a side of it that's like, okay, then what do I choose? Because that doesn't give me any guidance. Like that feels a little too like broad, I guess. But I think there's also freedom in knowing like, I'm 18, 19 when you're making those decisions. Like I don't have to fully know myself right now. And you don't, like you shouldn't. That would be a pretty abnormal experience to have it all figured out right now. So
Yeah,
it's kind of cool that you're like you, even within feeling indecisive, you're still sure about who you are and what you want out of college. I think
yeah.
that's
Well,
really
thank you.
what
That's all.
matters. Yeah. Let me see what we're doing. I think we have like 3 minutes left. So um I just want to ask like, because we've talked about this for almost like I guess an hour and a half now total. Um, and I'm curious if you feel you seem to have more clarity on the situation since the beginning of our first session. But is that a fair assumption? How are you feeling?
Yeah, for sure. I think that like not only is it more clear, but like I've never articulated it to like somebody, and therefore it's like made it clear in my own mind too,
Mm-hmm.
because there's always a level of like this and that, but it kind of stresses you out if you don't have it set like out in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so like just talking it through has really helped. Like just kind of make it clear in my mind,
Yeah.
and like any stress I have too, like it's helped navigate through that too. So
Isn't it funny how you can kind of like you can think something through for hours, but something about saying it out loud or even like journaling, like getting it out of your mind and onto somebody else or something else, like kind of makes you see it from a different lens.
yeah, absolutely, I agree. I think that's such an important thing to do, like with our stress. Like we're not meant to go through life alone.
Mm-hmm.
We're meant to have community and friendship, and so when we are stressed, like I think it's so cool how we can talk and have the opportunity for people. And obviously, you're very talented, and like I feel like you kind of know how I'm feeling whenever you ask me the question. So I can just tell that like it's easy for you, and it's not easy for everybody to do that.
Well, thanks.
So yeah, it's been very good.
Okay, nice. Well, thank you for doing this. This was so helpful for me too. I think Zoom is about to cut us off, but
Okay.
I
Sad.
appreciate it. I'll talk to
All
you
right.
later.
Bye, Lexi. Thank you.
Bye.